Now, in recent weeks, we've had lots of news about flags. The Union flag and the St George's Cross have been seen across the country, sparking both national pride and, from others, concern, all in the wake of anti-immigration protests up and down England. Meanwhile, across the pond, President Trump has signed an executive order instructing prosecutors to pursue criminal charges against those who burn US flags during protests. So we thought we'd talk to Tim Marshall, the foreign affairs writer who's written a book about the power of flags called Worth Dying For. Tim Marshall, good to talk to you this morning. Hello to you. So lots of news about flags on both sides of the Atlantic. Are you surprised that an issue like a flag can feature so prominently in our modern discourse?
Not at all. They never go out of fashion. They're not going out of fashion because they're emblematic. They signify something. Now, what they signify is in the eye of the beholder. They're sort of light in physical weight, but they're very heavy in meaning. So what they are used for is to say, this is who we are. This is what we support. And I mean, I was musing about the recent Flying the Colours campaign that's gone on across the country, across England anyway. And I was thinking, well, what if you wanted to say we're English and we're proud of it? You're not going to bring a teapot, which is pretty English. You're not going to bring some scones and cream or whatever. So you're only left with this symbol of what is supposed to be unity to represent all of us, but sadly, again, is now becoming a flag which looks like it's going to divide us again.
Well, yes, and how complicated would you say our relationship in England is with the national flag? As you say, some people will see it as a really important symbol of national pride. Yeah. Others feel they associate it with the far right. I mean, where does all that come from? And are we unusual in this country having sort of a mixed attitude towards our national flag?
I think we are fairly unusual, yes. There is a greater division here than there is in most countries about the flag, and that's a reflection of politics. But I am reminded of George Orwell's great quote that England is perhaps the only great country whose intellectuals are ashamed of their own nationality. And I think a lot of this is driven by the intellectual class and to a lesser extent by the national media class, who are so far removed from the lives of ordinary people that they don't understand that often it is just a symptom of patriotism. And patriotism does not necessarily equate with racism. I mean, it can do. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, but I also buy into the idea that some of the people who are doing this current campaign do not have always good intentions. Flags, we imbibe those colours from a very early age, and they're just there, and we kind of subliminally know what we think they mean, and they embody your hopes of what a country could be, pride, but also fears and revulsion. So to go back to your point, Anna, this only really became a thing in the 70s when the English flag, particularly, but also the Union flag, was hijacked by the far right, particularly by the National Front. And that went right through the 80s. Then in the 90s, I think a change came in the 1996 Euro finals played here, where at last flags could come back on the street without being necessarily associated with the far right. And unfortunately, and it's unfortunate for all the people that quite happily fly it with no ill intent to anyone else, because I think it's an important point that it does represent us, but that doesn't mean you have to dislike them, that it doesn't represent. But I think we are now going back to that earlier time.
And to touch on what's going on in the States as well, we've seen Donald Trump sign this executive order which would criminally charge those who burn the US flag in protests. But that overturns a Supreme Court decision, doesn't it, that says that flag burning really represented protected speech, and they're very big on freedom of speech in America. So is the flag viewed slightly differently there?
Well, it is held in much higher esteem. For example, it's not allowed to touch the ground. When military flags are retired, they're actually given genuinely a burial by the military, and you just see them flown, on your front lawn the way you don't in this country. But it's equally emotive. Now, you're referring to a 1984 case when a guy burnt the flag, charged, arrested, tried, convicted, appealed, and the Supreme Court agreed with his appeal that this is symbolic speech. And if speech is protected by the First Amendment, so is symbolic speech, and therefore burning it is a form of speech. So this executive order, you'd have to go through the Supreme Court. But of course, the Supreme Court often is made up of people who lean one way or another politically. And at the moment, if it comes back to the Supreme Court, given that I think there is a slight majority for Republican-leaning senior judges, it may be overturned. That one's going to rumble on this year, I reckon.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Who knew that the flag could be quite so interesting? It's an absolutely fascinating subject. We could talk to you about it all day, Tim. Lovely to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.